SEVElocity back. Hope everyone's doing well. Had a good week. We are back after a week of vacation for me. A nice calm break to accidentally gain 3 pounds because you stuff your face with all different types of sweets and candy and ice cream and all types of good food, Philly cheesesteaks, all that jazz. Um, Hope you all are doing well. Do you want anything to add before we get into the actual stuff that we're going to talk about, like sports?
Welcome back, everyone. This is the longest break we've ever had. The show, I think it's been 2 weeks since our last episode. While Eva living it up in paradise, I was hard at work over the past couple weeks. Um, and I gotta also point out, you see, even when I went on my vacation, I still managed to work around my schedule to make sure we didn't miss a whole week. So
Uh huh.
I think that shows who's more dedicated to the show. But
Okay.
that's, that's neither here nor there. So let's get right into it.
That is crazy talk. I was lounging at a beach with only an iPad. I am sorry. I cannot record on that. Anyway, alright, let's talk some basketball. We have some very minor news, so probably not the worst thing in the world that a 2 week cooldown happened because there's not much going on currently, but we can cover it. So the Lakers added more to their super team or super retirement team. Um, Added Rajon Rondo to the fold. Uh, Jared Dudley is out to be an assistant coach with Jason Kidd and the Mavericks. LeBron was very emotional about it. It is what it is. I think player-wise, Jared Dudley doesn't um, really bring a lot to the table, but I know that a lot of people believe he is a great players coach. So his addition is going to be very valuable for the Mavericks. Um, but Rondo seems to be the one that's going to be taking his place on the Lakers. You already have a million other guys on the team. You got like Mark Saw, Taylor Horton Tucker. Um, I mean, I'm not going to name the whole team. It's a lot of old people and a few young people like Malik Monk. I still think that they're going to be the favorite to win the finals, even though there is. I want to hear your take on this. Well, or at least
Well,
be in the
I was
finals.
gonna
The
say
Nets. The Nets too. Yes.
this is the first I heard that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't know that.
So I wanted your opinion on this because I think you might have seen this too. Anyone who's
Hmm.
on any type of social media, anytime the Lakers get posted by ESPN or whoever it is, there's a lot of flaming in the comments. And LeBron even tweeted, "Fine, like I'll prove you guys wrong if that's really what you think." And I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm kind of tired of it because I've called LeBron still a top two NBA player, and it's very upsetting to see a lot of people think that this team's going to be garbage next year. Um, because now it's made LeBron feel like he's an underdog, and I don't think by any means he's anywhere close to being an underdog. So now he's going to go potentially win the NBA Finals, and he's going to talk about how everyone was doubting him when he has a team of about 12 former All Stars. So I
Well,
wanted.
my take on that, in that case, he has every right to, and I support him 100% for it, because he's not the one who jumps off the deep end. Like the moment he has heard he's old, he's washed, he's gone. LeBron can't do this, do that.
I
But
agree
hey,
with
you
you
know what?
actually.
If that, but hey, but guess what? Let's say that didn't happen. Let's say none of that happened. Like he didn't get injured himself, and people still, majority of people still had him as the best player. Well, like there wasn't as many people debating Kevin Durant. You
Right.
know what they would have said next year? Um, they they would have said, "Oh, well, yeah, LeBron, his team is says stacked up. Now he's going to the finals." The only thing though, in terms of the underdog take, I really think the only case where in either event where
Against the
we're
Nets,
gonna look
yes.
at underdog, yeah, it's the Nets. I don't think anybody like really is looking at their matchups against any other team. I think they pretty much think the Lakers should beat anybody else.
Well, here's the thing. I don't mind people saying, like LeBron's not the best player in the world. Like if you
Yeah,
think he's like second behind Kevin Durant, I feel like that's the one feasible argument you could probably throw out there. Like I've
yeah.
said that a few times. It's just
Yeah.
when people are like, "Oh, he's washed. He's not gonna do anything." Like I agree. He's getting old.
Yeah.
I get that.
Ooh.
But to say that he's gonna be like completely irrelevant
Yeah.
is a joke.
Hold on. We're not gonna name any names here, but but I think we know who is to really blame. We know who stands at the very top of all of that
Yeah,
talking. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm just gonna say it's the person who likes to refer to him as Lagon.
yeah. I think his name's, it rhymes with like
Hip.
Trip Drayless. But like,
He-
I genuinely don't understand that, and I don't understand how everyone's looking at this team and they're like, "Oh yeah, it would be good 10 years ago. That team's trash." And I'm like, listen, I understand that a lot of those guys aren't in their prime, but a lot of these guys are still like top players in the NBA. And I'm not saying like top like star players, but I'm saying like, still averaging 15 to 20 a game or contributing something major in a certain aspect.
You know what I'm thinking? To hell with all of that. You could even go ahead and say they are all trash and stuff. LeBron James and Anthony Davis. When you have
Yeah,
two superstar guys of that level of skill and ability together, anything can happen. Like that alone makes them a title contending team. The role player make it easier for them,
it
but
makes no sense.
those two together, because like their games feed off of each other. Like we clearly saw Anthony Davis. He made such a big difference for LeBron, like in terms of the load it took off of him.
Yeah.
So just those two alone make them a tough team to go up against.
Supposedly, there's a rumor going around too that the Nets are trying to potentially buy out DeAndre Jordan's contract. They're not sure if they will or not. Um, as far as I understand, though, with all the trades that they've been making in offseason, I think they made like one or two trades. They refused to trade DeAndre Jordan at all. So like they didn't want to get rid of him. So I thought they would want to keep him, but maybe it's just they have so
Yeah.
much respect for DeAndre Jordan, they want him to pick his own destination. It could be if they do buy out his contract.
Well, probably also helps that him, KD, and Kyrie are boys, so they want
Yeah,
to make sure they do right by KD and Kyrie's boy.
but supposedly the rumor is if he is to leave the Nets in a contract buyout, that the Lakers would be in the conversation to sign him as well. Um,
I mean, unlike Drummond, he's an actual rim protector, so
dude, I'm
it
so
wouldn't be
excited to
terrible. But
see
they don't need him. They have Dwight Howard.
and
No,
Marc Gasol
no.
like as a third string center,
Uh,
but he's your third string center.
Well, yeah, I know, but I'm just saying we if we didn't have Marc Gasol, then I'd say yeah, sure, take him. But
Yeah, you don't need him. I feel like
yeah.
center is one of the last positions you need. Um, Now what was I gonna
Oh,
add to?
I actually just remembered something. What actually started the whole thing of LeBron, like talking back to the media and stuff. It was the day when the NBA executives or whatever do their little polls when when they were picked, voted for who
Oh, no one
is
voted
the
for
best
LeBron,
player in the
right?
world. Yeah, zero votes for LeBron.
It was mostly
The
KD and then I think a couple for
K,
Giannis
KD,
or Steph.
KD, then Giannis.
Okay. Yeah, I
Yeah, and get this. This isn't the first time this happened either. I think this also happened in like 2018 or 19. No, it was like 2018. I think LeBron got zero MVP votes.
listen. I made recency bias moments where I said that Giannis is better than LeBron, and that was wrong a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Not this
Yeah,
year.
yeah,
Uh,
and then and in those moments, I wish I was one of those IT guys, computer science guys, so I could just press a button and fry your phone. But continue.
but the point is, I feel like you can make a conversation for Kevin Durant. I don't think
Yeah,
LeBron was very upset about that. But like when you start
he's
where
not.
LeBron gets zero votes and then Giannis is getting votes too. I understand he just won the NBA Finals, but and like this is coming from this is coming from someone who absolutely loves Giannis. Um, but when it comes to a situation where let's be real, you probably shouldn't have made it past the Nets if they were healthy. Um,
Hmm.
you have to understand that LeBron wasn't healthy either, and I feel like there's a pretty damn good argument to make that LeBron is going to be just as fine next year against Giannis, and he'll probably do better than Giannis, but it won't be revealed as much because he has a lot of help around him. And I know Giannis has a lot of help, but the Lakers, just because they're big names, let's be real. Everyone's going to say this is a retirement team. But the second they start having success, it's going to be, oh, well, LeBron had to build a super team. So, like, which one is it? Um,
Oh, and then if they don't go anywhere, then they're gonna say, "Oh, LeBron had all of this help."
yeah, exactly. So, like, it
You see, I'm
you can't
glad
win.
you're actually I'm glad you're reacting today because this is new to me. Like, remember the high school we went to, Johannesburg Catholic High School, and it was blasphemous for me to just say LeBron James is my favorite player. So I'm used to this. I just love it. I just kick
Well,
back.
and and anyone who's seen like the Michael Jordan documentary, I think he puts it really well. The second that you begin to have a ton of success, everyone wants to rip it down and criticize you. The second you lose or something like that. So like a good example is when Michael Jordan lost. It was his 1998 season. It was going to be the second time he three-peated. I think it was his final year, and he
Mm.
was playing the Nets in the first round, and the Nets were not good. I mean, they were good, but they were nowhere near as good as the Bulls. So everyone said the Bulls should destroy them, and literally the Nets won Game One of the series, right, by like
Mm.
5 or 6 points, and it was the end of the world for the media. Everyone was like, "Oh, Jordan's washed. He's never gonna do this again. Look at this. He's crumbling." And it's
Uh,
because
the
you've
only the only thing reason why I'll defend against that, because you're saying this is when they were going for their second three-peat, right?
right.
Yeah, so that was probably when he had just come back from his like 2.5 year break from baseball.
Well, no, this is the third year of the three-peat.
Oh, the third year.
So the
Okay,
final year.
I take that back then.
But it's just like
Yeah.
everyone, like the second you see like a loss, so like LeBron getting eliminated from the playoffs when he won the finals the year before, everyone's so quick to criticize and say how bad he is, and I'll say it straight up. I say it a lot too. Um, but I try to make at least somewhat fair criticism. I do think he's getting old, which I do think is going to result in him being more injury prone. But I still
It's
think
not
he's a
saying we
phenomenal,
know.
yeah, and I still think he's a phenomenal player. But to just go out there and just bury him and be like LeBron's trash, it drives me absolutely nuts. Because like the people who are saying it can't even touch a basketball court. So
Hey, funny when LeBron had 50 points in the NBA Finals, he was apparently trashed then too for for not closing the game. It was his fault. What's it called for J.R. Smith having that meltdown?
it's just I wish people would just have a rational argument on social media, but it's just straight to LeBron's garbage. And he gets the Mickey Mouse Award for winning the lucky COVID NBA Finals, and it was just
Oh no
luck.
no no no! Oh yeah, and now I'm gonna say the guy's name. Skip Bayless. A quote from him: "Cubic zircody." Or what?
Um,
I might have butchered the name, but yeah, he says it's not a real ring. It's not authentic.
it's so stupid. I genuinely can't understand it because everyone's put into that same exact scenario. So why is it that he just gets some sort of excuse for it? Doesn't count. Thrown out the
Uh,
window.
and I also recall them game one against the Portland Trailblazers when they lost. Everyone said, oh, "I'm not sure if the Lakers can do it," because the Lakers looked so rusty when they stepped in the bubble too.
Yeah, and Charles Barkley, I'm pretty sure said Portland in five or something
Well,
like that.
first of all, we know better than to listen to any of Barkley's takes.
I
Let's be
know
real.
it's hard to listen to. By the way, yeah, Rondo signed a $2.6 million deal 1 year with the Lakers.
I wish they really needed to get JaVale McGee back and scrap Marcus All. Honestly, I re- I was saying during the off season, if the Lakers are going to move anyone, keep their bigs. Their bigs were the anchors on the team. JaVale and Dwight, they played their roles perfectly.
I mean, I would like to see them get one more big name player, not like a huge name player like James Harden or anything, but like a good role player, but a young role player. I know they have a lot of good ones, but they don't have many young ones. Like Malik Monk, perfect.
Yeah.
He's only like 24, but you have so many older guys where it's one of those deals where it's we all know it's gonna be like that one and done type deal. Like it's probably six or
Hmm.
seven of those guys are gonna be gone after this year.
Yep.
So I would have liked to see at least a little bit more stability in their team building. But I mean, I think this team's still going to be good. I think Carmelo is going to do better there than he did with Portland. And I'm not saying maybe score more, but do better as a player. It could be on multiple aspects of the floor. It's just being around LeBron. And I think Russell Westbrook is going to change his game a bit to be more efficient. Um, but I also think that they're going to facilitate him having the ball more than you would think. I think he's going to score more than you would think. Because I think it's going to run more between Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis scoring and LeBron kind of distributing. And I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but I think that's kind of what LeBron wants, and him taking the ball only if he has to.
I think I think LeBron is still gonna average the second most points on the team. Like this is what I'm gonna predict if I had to throw a number out there. Like, and this is of course whenever we make the prediction, we're assuming health.
Right.
I'm gonna assume around 28 points per game for AD,
Okay.
20,
I thought you were saying for
20,
LeBron. I was like, whoa.
20, 25 for LeBron, and maybe 23 for Westbrook.
I think I could see that. I like that's reasonable. I expect Westbrook to be the clear third option at least on the team. Like he's not going to drop below that. Now
I
I want
just
to hear
wish they
your
got some shooters. Cause I mean, I know Carmelo, like he evolved, like he became a better spot up shooter of Portland, but still, we know that's not really like the real strength of Carmelo. Like I want to, they need a true pure spot up shooters on that team.
Malik Monk will be good.
Well, Malik Monk he is. Yeah,
Now, who do you think is going to be the fourth highest scorer on the team? Average.
Melo.
Do you think Melo? Me too.
Yeah, because
Um,
I don't think anyone else on that team had the skill set to get their shot up like Melo, despite how old he is.
I think fourth will be him. Maybe Malik Monk fifth. Um,
Yeah,
I'm just worried he might get buried in the lineup. Same with Kendrick Nunn. I don't think Kendrick Nunn's going to score a lot, but I'm worried he's going to get buried in the lineup and he's better than to be buried into like third string. I think he should at least be second string. I just hope he doesn't get buried in the
I
lineup.
think he might. I think he'll actually outscore Malik Monk.
Kendrick Nunn.
Yeah.
I think he's a great backup point guard. It really depends on what they do with Rondo. Like if they're gonna force Rondo to be on the floor a lot, because the Clippers didn't do it last year, but I'm pretty sure the Lakers had him on the floor a lot when he was there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he was literally the only other person that could bring the ball up the floor for them.
You know, I want to see them bring in Dennis Schroeder. I think that would be.
Bring him in after they just lost him.
They offered him 80 million, and then no one else
Oh
offered
yeah.
him anything close to it, and then he had to sign a $7 million deal with the Celtics.
Screw him. No.
He
Ew.
he really
What?
thought that he was worth more than 80 million, or I think maybe it was 64 million, and he said no, I'm gonna go find a better contract. And then the Lakers had to rescind it because they signed a ton of talent, so I don't even think they could afford him at any point. And
Well,
he had to find
don't hop on the bandwagon now. Too
seven
late. You
million
had your
dollar deal with the
chance.
Celtics one
You
year.
you had it. Nope. You had your chance.
I mean, I don't know what he was thinking. He did the Lakers a favor though, because I think that team's way better with all the pieces they signed with that 80 million than they would be with
Yeah.
him.
Thank you, Schroeder. Thank you for being an idiot.
um, Trying to think if there's anything to talk about left in regards to the Lakers.
Well, we know there'll definitely be more stuff eventually. Uh, all right. I think, we talk heavily about LeBron, but I think the real person we need to talk about is Anthony Davis. Because as you know, I love Anthony Davis, and I really don't, I straight up do not know what was up with him this year prior to the injury. Like, so when they left the bubble, he just was not looking like himself on the floor at all. Like, we just saw a big drop off. I
Well,
don't know what it was, and I saw some reports saying that Anthony Davis, he might have hired like new trainer or like nutritionist or whatever, trying to like improve his conditioning.
I I believe that Anthony Davis is poised to have one of the best years of his career this upcoming year. But also at the same
Mhm.
point, I'm slightly worried. It's not a big deal, but I feel like he's not a very vocal person, and he's about to be in a locker room with probably 6 to 7 very vocal people. So like, I don't. Obviously, he's still one of the stars of the team. Whether you shuffle between him and LeBron, but I'm worried that he's not going to be as outspoken when I think he knows plenty and can give plenty to the rest of the team information wise. So I'm just worried
Well,
he
I mean,
won't take charge of a lot of situations, even though this is kind of his team.
yeah, I
I
can. Well, no, I'm
It's
not gonna go
LeBron's
that
team.
far.
Well, yeah, it's
Yeah.
LeBron's team, but I mean in aspects of being the best player, it's almost his team in a sense.
Yeah, everybody on the team respects him. Like even while with LeBron there and stuff, the first go round, even some throughout the year, the guys on the team, they were literally jumping left and right. Like they didn't even know who they'd really call the best. There were moments when they said that LeBron's the best on the team,
Yeah.
and then there were moments they said AD is.
I
And like AD, he's the one he used to go out and talk to LeBron and like critique him and tell LeBron to step up more on defense.
yeah.
So I see LeBron being the big voice, like in the big huddle, like talking to all the
As
guys.
he should be.
I see I see AD being the one to like get you talk to you one on one individually.
Like okay, like kind of like Draymond Green in a sense. All right,
Well,
not
Draymond
to
kind of
flip.
does both. He
Draymond's.
does
I was
both.
gonna say
He does
Draymond's a good
both.
leader, as much as
He does both. Yeah, yeah.
him talking to
Well,
James Wiseman.
we know what he calls his teammates, Kevin Durant.
Yeah. Did you
That's yes, that's a great topic. I can't believe I forgot about that.
you saw? Did you
Now,
watch that interview?
I didn't watch the whole thing, but I heard the sound bites from it, and I heard some of it, and I heard some of the topics and the media. Now, I'm gonna pose a question: how do you feel about KD and Draymond blaming the whole situation on Steve Kerr and the Warriors front office?
I kind of agree, and I think that I think it was slightly a scapegoat. I think that there was definitely stuff that they weren't putting out there.
Yeah.
Um, but at the same time, I do believe both of them because I think they both felt that way. I think that they thought it was something that could be resolved pretty quickly and like on to the next game. But
Hmm.
I think that they like Steve Kerr and the Warriors organization probably did treat it like, oh, tread on thin ice around these guys. Be careful. Like they might throw punches at each other when it was something that's way less serious than that. Like
And,
I'm sure
and
there was
more so,
a discord between them, but
and
I,
more so, this how let's be real, because we know in the sports world, not everybody's of equal value. They wanted Draymond to drop on his knees for KD.
I bet you that's what it was too. And I'm sure Katie didn't
Yeah,
like that either. He doesn't
yeah.
want Draymond just to roll over and beg and say sorry.
Draymond, Draymond says someone in the at office told Draymond go apologize to KD. What's it called? Because they want to do whatever they could to keep KD there on the team.
No,
But you know what? You know what actually intrigued me? I heard Stephen A. bring it up, and I'm like, it's a good point. I thought of it then, but I never really spoke on it too much. Where the hell was Steph Curry in all of this? The
I
face of the Golden State Warriors during that whole fiasco. My point is, his name was not brought up once at all in the media. And the only reason why I say that is this: on the Lakers, let's say if Melo and AD are getting into it in locker rooms, LeBron's gonna get called out some way somehow. On the Brooklyn Nets, Kyrie and James Harden are getting into it. KD's name is going to be brought up some way somehow. Milwaukee Bucks, Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton get into it.
yeah.
Giannis's name is going to be pulled up. Steph Curry, not a word.
I I think I'm sorry. I'm gonna make a ton of comparisons to the Bulls because I'm rewatching The Last Dance.
Hmm.
But when I think you look at Steph Curry, he's very much a he's similar to Scottie Pippen in the sense of leadership. He's very supportive and like he won't yell at you for anything. He's very supportive. He just wants to everyone to kind of get along.
No,
But he's
no, no,
not very vocal either.
that's not even my point. As in Steph going out of the way and stuff. I'm saying Steph was not being called out at all.
Yeah. Um. I mean I think
Like
that's
Stephen A. said, straight up said, we all know we gotta call it. It is Steph Curry. He's the golden child in that organization.
it's tough though because if you look at that team, the other examples you brought up, those guys are all definitive star, like the star player of the team. And I know Steph's a phenomenal player, but people would probably tell you that KD was the most definitive star on the team. He was the
Yeah,
best.
yeah, but he never got the love. Steph was the, but if you had to ask any of them who was the face of that franchise, it was Steph
Oh well,
Curry.
Steph will always be the face of the franchise just because of how long he's been there. But I think
But
it's
but let me tell you this. Remember, I told you out here. I don't know how many people from the West Coast like you knew while you were down in school in Florida, but up here, I knew people from the San Francisco Bay Area. One of them, in particular, one of my classmates, he's a diehard Warriors fan. Even after their first ring together, I was still having to argue with this guy. He still was claiming Steph Curry was better than Kevin Durant on the Warriors team. And did you know part of him? He didn't go out and say it, but he wanted KD gone from the team because he knew because KD Steph would not get Finals MVP and stuff there. They appreciated KD in terms of like the value he adds to the team, but trust me, in terms of where the love and the glory is, no, the shine, the appreciation, and the credit from the Warriors fans, they look at Steph Curry. They're like, oh yeah, KD was here, but Steph. I'm
Yeah,
telling you, that's their mentality.
I just think that I don't think Steph should get that much attention for that because he even before KD was there, he was never the captain of the team. He was a great player, but it was always Draymond's team in a sense. He was always telling everyone what to do and calling shifts.
I'm not going that well. But if we say that, we could even look back at OKC with KD. KD was never really all of that vocal on OKC either, but still
Yeah,
he was the main face on the team. Steph was the big
it,
face on the Warriors. There was a point where people were wondering if he was pulling the title as the face of the NBA from LeBron and two-time back-to-back MVP. I'm just saying, what's it called? With all of that, he should have more accountability to go with all of the glory that it comes with. Because
I
come on,
I think that you look at Steph Curry the way I look at LeBron sometimes. I think.
no, that's not a doubt. But we both know that, but look, there's more accountability on LeBron than there is on Steph.
Well, yeah,
Like
that I agree with,
seriously.
but
And I even brought up KD. I it wasn't just LeBron. There are other names out there.
in fairness to LeBron, you're going to be criticized because you're being compared to Michael Jordan all the time to be the best. So
No, but even before the Jordan comparison, there was always DC to hate him for some reason.
his
But but
success
but
and making a super
but
team,
yeah,
that's why.
but that's beside the point. But I'm just saying that Steph Curry, you're the face of the franchise, and two of your other superstars on the team are having beef like that, and like not once did they say, oh, Steph, maybe you should talk to them, like to try and de-escalate the situation. Because if you notice, like while the whole fiasco went down too. Steph was just away from him, keep it to himself. I'm saying if we saw other stars for their respective team do that, even at this point, like we see, look at Kawhi. We see. I'm not saying Steph is dismissive like Kawhi, but Kawhi recently he's been criticized for being dismissive like around his teammates.
I think
Uh,
I think it's I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second. W- What if the scenario ended up being Steph gets involved between them and makes it worse, where he's now a part of the argument, and now that whole team is completely out of whack because
Yeah,
Klay Thompson's
no,
still
yeah,
hurt.
no, yeah, I get that. Like, I respect the fact that maybe he doesn't want to like get caught up in the middle of all of that. But
Yeah,
I'm just saying that nobody else was saying, wait, was even questioning,
yeah.
like, wait, maybe Steph should like step and do something. No one was saying that because I can bring up another situation. Remember the Nick Youngin, on what's his name,
D'Angelo Russell.
D'Angelo Russell? Whose name did they bring up as a third party? They mentioned Kobe, even though Kobe was in his last year there
Yeah,
on
Kobe didn't
the
want to be
Lakers.
part of it.
Yeah, but they still said,
Yeah,
but they still brought up Kobe's name, like saying, "Oh, I wonder if Kobe knows what's going on here, or if Kobe could fix this or whatever."
but I mean, I think I you raise a fair point about the media, but I don't. Judging
Yeah,
from the
like,
way
l-
Draymond and KD handled it, it sounds like
yeah.
that they didn't want anyone else involved. It
Well,
sounded like
yeah,
it
I
should have been a
agree with
one-on-one
that.
thing.
Like, no, I'm not blaming Steph for,
Yeah,
for anything at all for being in the middle of it. I'm just saying that the thing that whenever stuff happens in any locker room with teams, you point at the face of the franchise, and I'm saying in that Warriors team, with the amount of coverage that was around that team, first of all, media coverage, for Steph not to get called out,
I think
I just think it's kind of ridiculous
I
hindsight.
disagree with you in the sense that guys like Giannis and KD would be called out for it. I think that
Right now with the Nets, he would. He definitely
okay,
would.
well that's just because of a super team, but I don't think Giannis would get called out. I think you have KD and LeBron only. And I think it's just because LeBron gets so much attention, even if he doesn't want the attention, he gets so much attention from the media.
Yeah,
It's gonna
yeah.
that they're gonna bring up his name regardless of what happens, even if he had nothing to do with it, or even if he was helping in there and you just didn't hear about it. Everyone would be like, "Why isn't he helping?"
I'm sorry. I just have like some commentary like from Skip in my head.
It's,
That's why I'm laughing because I'm just imagining stuff. But all right, I agree with you on that. Like, well, Giannis maybe at some point he'll get to that
yeah,
point where,
right.
but maybe not him. Kevin Durant, yes, but the Steph Curry, I think in terms of should,
Should
I
be
say
warranted.
yes, yeah, because of this. Remember, as we said, if you were to, let's say LeBron was not there, if we had to rank just in terms of popularity, who do you think would be the face of the NBA? Like, well, I'm not even gonna say just like right now in this point because Giannis won the championship, but over the past year, like since our high school days, LeBron wasn't there. Who would have been the face of the NBA? Steph. Many people were saying that it looked like Steph was pulling the NBA from LeBron. Like, remember, people on media were saying that some of the superstars they didn't necessarily hate Steph, but they were getting envious of him for how quickly he was gaining the popularity.
Yeah.
Like, I'm telling you, Steph is more popular than Kevin Durant. In fact,
I don't know if I agree with that. I think that he's more vocal than Kevin Durant, but I think Kevin Durant's more covered. Um, like when I watched the finals between the Cavs and the Warriors, I didn't go, I can't wait to see what Steph does and what LeBron does. I went, I can't wait to see what Kevin Durant and LeBron do. Like that was my first thought. I know, and that's not a knock on Steph. It's
oh,
just I
well,
was more
I
focused on
know, but
Kevin Durant.
I know, but well, I was too. I'm not gonna lie, I was too. But we needed to, but remember, we gotta consider the context because Kevin Durant, all the expectation was on him because he had. Remember, both of us were so mad with how he left OKC after blowing a 3-1 lead. So that's what built into it as well. I think that's what we need to take into
You were
account.
mad.
You you weren't. No. You weren't mad. You
Uh,
weren't mad. That
I
is a
was
lie.
upset. I was upset. No, I will literally send you a screenshot. The week that he signed with the Warriors, I made a post saying if you were offered 40 million to go play it with three other All-Stars too, I would take it too, and so would the rest of you. I posted that week.
We were face we were face to face, and you said how he's a snake or whatever. How it was
He was a
ridiculous.
snake, but I also said from his perspective, I'm taking that deal too.
No, you told me that you were mad. Both of us were mad about it. Like
I was
obviously,
mad, but I think in his
I know
perspective,
when.
I'm absolutely taking that deal.
All right, but I'm not. I'm not thinking of money. Like I'm not talking money. We were just talking about in terms of what it was gonna do to the league.
Hmm.
Like that's
Tip
what
the
we were
balance.
both mad about. Yeah. Like you even agreed with me on this that like because I think the Clippers are one of them in consideration. Both of us saw that as like a better move. Cause one, he didn't just lose to the Clippers,
Hmm.
and two, it would have been another team in the West to compete with the Warriors.
I was upset with the balance of the league, but from his
Yeah.
perspective, I think he made the right decision.
Oh my God, you're dancing all over the place. Like obviously, Evan. Like when I said I said I was mad because I knew he was gonna get his rings.
Right,
I knew it.
right.
I knew it. Like obviously he's gonna get his accolades and all of that. But you just went to the team. You blew a 3-1 lead again. It tipped the scales for the league. You were right there with your squad in OKC. 3-1. I don't care. You can say whatever you want about Russell Westbrook or what everyone else says. If you win 3 games against a team, that is competitive right there. And how many points did they lose the last game by? 7 points.
So you would rather have him get eliminated in the second round and then sign with the Warriors than blow a
Um,
3-1 lead to them and then sign with them?
yes, actually, wouldn't you like put yourself in that
We
situation for a
we
sec?
all knew
Going to a team you just lost to.
we all know that the second the season ended, there was a chance that Kevin Durant was going to be a Warrior. No one believed it, but everyone thought there was a chance. So at least from my understanding, evaluating the situation, and I don't think I evaluated it back then because I didn't know as much about basketball. But if I looked at the situation and I said, damn, they could still give him one of the highest salaries in the NBA, and he can have three All Stars at his disposal. He might
Yeah,
take that deal.
you know why I'm smiling? You know why I'm smiling? Because you know what I recall back then too. What you kept saying actually, Kevin Durant to the Knicks.
Yeah, I wanted it.
Because
Wait,
yeah,
no,
because what else we saw? Because it was the Olympics too. We saw Melo trying to recruit KD the whole time too. But little did he know Draymond was on that on the low.
I and the same goes for LeBron when he made his super team. And I know he didn't blow a 3-1 lead to the Heat or anything before playing against
I
him.
know,
But I
I know,
I evaluated it. I hated it so much. I was livid about it. But
I know
looking
you
back
did.
on it, I understand why he did it. It was
I know, but also told me you hate him less for it because the Durant situation was completely different. Not only did LeBron not just lose to the Heat, where the Heat seeding was worse than the Cavs before he went there. Like they were like maybe a seventh or eighth spot, or they might. I'm not sure if they missed the
well.
playoffs,
That's because he
but
only
the
had Wade.
height of seventh. Yeah, exactly. That's the difference right there. But KD went to a team that was just in the NBA Finals that won 3 games against them in the game 7. And again, another close final. How many points did they lose by? Like 4 points against the
I
Cavs.
was more upset with him going to the Nets than I was with the Warriors. Be-
Hold on, wait. No, hold on. Before I hear you, I'm just gonna take a guess and tell me if I'm wrong. I really hope this is the reason, or I really might come off the
no,
set.
it's not because I'm a
Is
Knicks
it?
fan.
So it's not because you thought he was gonna go to the Knicks?
Before you walk off the set, let me throw out my points here. I don't like when super teams get formed um, from a sense of tampering. Because it's pretty evident that there's tampering from the Nets and probably the Heat too when LeBron signed there. There was plans that this super team was going to be formed all throughout the regular season, and you're not allowed to tamper. You're not allowed to recruit anybody technically, and we're just
Wait,
sitting.
wait, hold on. When you say tampering, like I just want to know the specific, like, what are you talking as in players talking to each other, like recruiting each
Both
other?
players and organization.
All right, I was about to say with players that did happen with the Warriors.
It
That
did,
was
it did.
Draymond. That was
But
Draymond.
I feel like from like even Pat Riley's perspective and the Nets, I feel like these teams were going to be created before the regular season even ended. It was almost set in stone. We weren't
What?
hearing
Yeah,
about it, but it was very definitive and how everything was going to be built, and that
yeah.
that that bothers
We
me.
heard D-Wade did talk about it. Like it was during regular season, but here's the thing: they just didn't know for sure if it was going to be the Heat as of yet. Like what he, because Dwayne Wade talked about it, him and LeBron. I
Mhm.
think it might have been toward the tail end of the season, but they knew they didn't have help on the respective team to win. Wade won a championship already. LeBron's been to the finals. Wade said he talked to LeBron on the phone. He called LeBron actually,
Yeah,
and like was like, "Hey, you want a team up?" He was like, "I." He was like, "These MVP, these stats, like, is not doing it. Like, I'm hungry to win."
yeah,
And like LeBron was like, I was feeling the same way and stuff, and then they were discussing like what team to go to. Like it wasn't definitively the Heat at first, so
like
I don't think it was Pat Riley at first, but I think after like they
yeah, it
played or
started to
talked,
develop to Pat
yeah,
Riley. Yeah,
yeah, because after LeBron and Wade, we know who they contacted next. It was Melo,
right.
but then Melo didn't want to
Like
do. I forgot why Melo didn't, but then they ended up pulling in Bosch, and then of course Wade, when they agreed that let's try and make it happen with Miami. Then naturally Wade would talk to Riley.
yeah, and like the Warriors team is like better. Don't get me wrong; they had four All Stars versus three. But the thing that made me less angry about it was Kevin Durant still went through a lot of the signing process where you really didn't know if he was definitively going to go to the Warriors. You knew there was a chance of it, but there was a couple other destinations. And I know LeBron had the decision and everything, but it was pretty set that it looked like he was going to go to Miami. Like you knew for
No, it wasn't. You know why? You know why that's a damn lie? Because this is what exactly was probably enkindled my hate for the damn New York Knicks fans. Because you know why a lot of them hate LeBron so much to this day?
because the Knicks
I'm
hat
not
was
sure.
on the table too.
Yeah, no, they thought they were getting him. They thought for sure they were getting him. They were very confident they were get him. It was not definitive. The Heat, like they said that LeBron picking the Heat was a slick move on them because they swore he was getting him.
But from his perspective, we knew LeBron's decision was already made. He wasn't sitting at that table like thinking. Like we all knew for a fact he was like not
But
looking back on it, we didn't know, but LeBron knew for a fact he was going to Miami probably throughout the entire offseason.
no, what LeBron knew for a fact him and his boy D Wade were gonna team up because I'm pretty sure D Wade, I think Dwayne Wade extended uh, his contract then too. I think Wade would have also been a free agent because he could have even walked to the Cavs if he wanted to,
Does
but they could have went to They could have went to the Knicks. That's why the Knicks fan hated the Miami Heat squad so much because it could have been the Knicks.
I don't like pre-organized super teams, and that goes the same with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. They're not a super team, but that was very pre-organized, and they
All right.
screwed Russell
Well,
Westbrook over.
not just that. Well, with Kawhi and Uncle Dennis, they held up several organizations by the you know
Yeah,
what to get that done.
yeah, like that.
That
That
was
just bothers
worse.
me. I wish that all these guys would go through a proper vetting process of free agency instead of predetermining where they're going. Like listening to offers and deciding, okay, maybe this is where I'll go. But
Well,
instead,
I'm
there's just so much pre-planning where where like we probably don't know it, but we probably
yeah.
there's probably going to be a super team next year that we don't know about that certain players probably already want to make.
Well, I'm actually gonna against that for a sec. In terms of free agency, I like obviously both of us we want to see the league more balanced and competitive,
Right.
but I don't have criticism to like how the players are moving with free agency it being predetermined because I consider like this like walking on to another job like you got to move strategically. But what I if do kind of have a problem with is players forcing a trade. Forcing a trade, you're under an obligation for a team already, a signed contract, a legal document. You decide, I don't want to play here anymore. I force a trade. And it's one thing going to the front office demanding a trade, but then you hold them hostage by like James Harden, like how he was handling COVID and all of that nonsense. That is just so irresponsible and disrespectful. Like something refusing to play, going out there just
Gaining weight
sabotaging.
and then just magically being
Yeah,
perfectly in shape
yeah,
the first day he
that is
missed.
yeah, that is despicable.
Blake
But in terms
Griffin's another one.
yeah, but in terms of like LeBron, I told you I hated the move KD made. But what's it called? But what I do like now, him and LeBron, like the move they did the right way. They fulfilled their responsibilities
That
under
I
their
can I can
contract for
agree
their
with that.
respective
I can agree with
teams.
that.
Yeah, but the trading stuff, no. Like one thing if you want to demand a trade, but if you're going to demand a trade and force a team and force your way out like that, like disrespecting a franchise like that, no, that's unacceptable.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Um, it's it's tough because I wish that you know this is gonna be weird, but usually a lot of people are hated for chasing money, like especially in the NFL. But in terms of NBA, I almost wish that everyone was a money chaser, not a ring chaser, because all this ring chasing is turning into like the Lakers are a great example, sort of the Nets. You have all of these guys who would be great, valuable pieces on other teams, all coming together and like deteriorating the rest of the NBA talent. Like it's bringing some of the like some more attention to guys that probably deserve you know better roles. Um, but it's also deteriorating the rest of the NBA teams in general, and now making it into a two-team league instead of a 30-team league.
My only rebuttal to that point is this: the NBA is already has the stigma of the player of NBA players. Oh, they don't care, they don't work hard, they don't care if they win or not. They just care about their money. So in reality, they're
Yeah,
already looked at as money chasers. So I don't think they could get any
I
worse.
just like I well like I wish it was just like for example, you have I think you're only allowed what two supermax contracts for each team. So
Oh, I didn't know that.
I'm pretty sure you're only allowed to play two people the max amount of money. So that would make end result because I think either James Harden or Kevin Durant doesn't get the full amount. Maybe Kyrie. But that would basically force NBA teams to not have three All Stars. Like almost like the third guy doesn't want to be there because he's not getting paid nearly as much. So I would love to have a more duo-based league, like kind of like what it was when the Nets were injured. LeBron, I can't really say much because he was a duo at the time. He just has a lot of pieces around him. But I hate that there's this third player because it shifts the balance off of basketball. Same with the Warriors, where you're like, this team's clearly going to win it all. They have way more talent. And then you
Yeah.
got guys, veterans, signing $1 million deals, or Rajon Rondo signing a $2 million deal when you know he can go get $10 million anywhere else just to play with the Lakers. That bothers me because
But
it's destroying the other teams. It's making the bottom of the
yeah,
barrel teams like the Pistons and all of that makes them way worse, while the very top just keeps getting better and better.
yeah. But well, part of that too is the legacies of the franchises that attract them. Because like, let's be real. Look at the Cleveland Cavaliers. They better count their blessings for having ever drafted LeBron James and for him of actually being born in Akron, Ohio. Because if that was not his home team, LeBron would have never, ever, ever stepped foot in the
Right.
Cleveland market.
It's it's just unfortunate because I would love to see. I can't even say during like the Bulls era. Um, but I would love to see this era of basketball where it's duo based and like this playoffs was a really good example to have the Bucks versus the Suns make it. Sure, the Nets should have made it, but the injuries kind of set them aside. You had duos all shuffled throughout the league, so once the Nets were out, you had no idea who was going to win. Like the Hawks could have been hot at some point, the Sixers could have been hot. You had so many different teams, you had no idea which one was going to be the best team. And
Mhm.
that for me was really enjoyable to watch. It's not as enjoyable knowing which two teams are going to be in the finals at the start of the season, because
Yeah,
barring injuries, it's pretty clear it's going to be the Nets versus the Lakers this year.
yeah.
Um, I just like the unpredictability that it brings. Um, I'm not a big super team guy though, and I never have been. It's entertaining to watch in terms of performance. It's like, wow, this is the
Yeah.
best possible basketball that can be played right now. Kind of like the 1992 Dream Team when they were having their
Yeah.
practices. It's like, wow, this practice is really entertaining because it's perfect pass, perfect shooting, everything. Um, but it's also
Yeah.
upsetting knowing that they're going to blow out every other team.
I always it is like my take on the super teams is I'm okay with them, but there has to be certain criteria that filled. I don't mind a super team as long as there are a few others for them to compete against.
Yeah.
Like let's say hypothetically, let's say there's two super teams in the West and two in the East. Sure, we'll probably end up predicting what the conference finals going to be, but still, at least we'll see that level of competition fighting to
I
get to
can
the
agree with
finals,
that.
and then a fight in the finals as well.
I don't want to see a team each on the East and West and then just blowing out every team in the East and the West by 30 plus. I hate that.
Yeah,
That's not entertaining.
that was the Warriors and Cavs in
Like
the past years.
like hypothetically, if you had, I guess the Sixers. We'll use the Sixers as an example. I would usually use the Knicks, but like let's say the Knicksers, the Knicks and the Sixers. Sorry. Let's say you had Embiid and you had Damian Lillard, and let's say you had, I don't know, like Jason Tatum on your team. And then you had James Harden,
Finals.
Kyrie, and
Oh,
and
oh yeah, that
Kevin
would have been.
Durant. That would be
That's a
super
game
entertaining.
seven.
Yeah,
That's a game seven.
that would be entertaining. Like that would be at least enjoyable to watch. You don't know which of the two is going to make it to the finals. It would be a great series, and that's like you said, that would be more entertaining. I would at least want that. If you're going to have super teams, at least make it more than two, so we don't know clearly who's going to make it.
Yeah.
Um,
And I will say this though, and you see, this is what burns me again about I'm gonna bring up the KD move because we already knew what the East was. It wasn't that you can't even necessarily blame on LeBron like being on the Cavs. Like the East, it was just horrendous back then. All of the good players was on the West Coast at that time. If KD wasn't on the Warriors, and let's say he was still on OKC, think of the dogfight that would have been the original Warriors trio with OKC. We remember that was the game seven. And don't forget the Clippers squad with CP3, Blake Griffin, and the Lob City Clippers. The only reason why they never really had postseason success was the injury. But in terms of the talent, many times, especially 2015, many thought that was going to be the year they would get to the finals and
yeah,
compete. Well, James Harden had the Rockets competitive back then. Kawhi with the Spurs. Think of how many different
Paul George with the
matches that would have
Pacers.
been. Well, that's the East. But I'm just saying, look at
Yeah,
how I'm just looking at the West. That would have been a perfect example of playoff competition in like multiple rounds in the West. Because do you remember in the 2016 playoffs how excited we were watching the West Coast series? Like you and me, we were so before the Warriors and freaking the Warriors and OKC. Remember how excited we were to
yeah,
watch the OKC and the Spurs,
yeah. It was gonna
like
be a
from
ton of
game
fun.
one. Yeah,
I see. I
yeah,
miss
that's what
those
I'm
days.
saying. Yeah.
I want to see. I want to
Even
see.
even with the Heat, even with my boy the Heat, like even though we had the big three, they had tough competition against the Celtics team with their
Yeah.
big four. Like
Well,
we used to have those.
and the thing that I liked too, even when the Heat were really good, is that there was a lot of still good duos. So like the
Yeah,
having three stars kind of pushed the balance a bit, but like the duos were
I'm
able to still keep it entertaining. So like even watching, like the Knicks never did great against the Heat, but even watching Carmelo and Amari Stoudemire versus LeBron, Bosh, and Wade was entertaining. Like because Amon Shumpert was guarding
yeah.
Dwayne Wade, so he was still a good defender, and it was an entertaining
I
series, even if we lose 4-1.
I think it was actually more for the Knicks concern. I think their most entertaining series is actually them against the Pacers.
Yeah, I mean, but in
Yeah,
general, those games were always entertaining to see duos still be able to kind
I'm
of keep
also
it.
gonna say this. Looking back on on the Miami Heat team, I'm gonna say there were only yeah there were only 2 years where I think the Heat were definitely the best team in the NBA, and that was honestly 2011, like when they first came together, and also I'll say 2012, like when they faced OKC. But 2013 and 14, those Spurs teams, I'll say all the hype was with the Heat, because you know, 'cause like Bron and them, they were the young like stars in their prime. Well, Wade was going down, but you know how it is. Like when you see the young hot boys versus the Spurs, who are old team, like they're born for us young kids to watch. I'm telling you, like, cause I used to argue with my parents, like I kept saying the Heat were the best team out there, cause you know, obviously they're still there. Many of the people, the older heads, they were saying the Spurs were better than the Heat.
I want to hear your it was pretty
Wait,
close there.
I just want to know, do you agree that's fair that you could make a argument that the Spurs were better than the Heat, mainly because Dwayne Wade, we saw how much he fell off after the 2 year because like you know his knees.
You
But thinking of like the way the Spurs organization is constructed, like Greg Popovich coaching, and then still having Timmy, Tony Parker,
I think
Ginobili, Kawhi at such a high level.
I think talent wise, you knew the Heat were better, but you knew the Spurs were more fundamentally sound, so it made it a really close series. So I
But
think that
even then, talent wise, like maybe I will give say the Heat, but I think it was still pretty close. I think the talent was better the Spurs on the Spurs.
I think it's just more LeBron's well above all of them in general. So
Yeah,
that's the
that
talent
was it.
problem.
Yeah, but I'll say that if Wade's knees weren't bombed, I would say the Heat definitely were better than them. But we saw how Wade fell off.
I want to give you a scenario because I'm curious how you would feel about this.
Yeah,
If because the Pacers, would you say the Pacers probably gave the Heat the best run for their money in those years?
no, no.
Well, I'm saying
I'm
Celtics don't count. That was like the very early, like the Celtics were at the very tail end. I think they had like one good year against the Heat, and then it was.
no. Both years, the first and second year.
Did the Pacers not make it to the semifinals twice against them?
Yeah,
Against the
but
Heat?
yeah, they were probably the last 2 years of the Heat. Remember the Heat? They were together for 4 years.
Yeah, and then the first 2 years with the Celtics.
First 2 years with Celtics.
So, would you say, let's say Tim Duncan was on the Pacers? What do you think? Do you th- what do you think would happen?
I think those would have went to Game Sevens,
Yeah,
because despite you know how I feel about Tim Duncan, despite the fact he was old, I think Tim Duncan was underappreciated back then, just because he's not fun to watch, and
but
we were young back then, so you know we kind of were dismissive to him.
I was trying to think of a player to pick, and I thought Tim Duncan was perfect because if you think about it, so you had Roy Hibbert, right? He was the big man
Oh
at the time.
God, that if anything, we can argue that's one maybe the primary reason why they underperformed so much in the playoffs.
Wait, you have
I
to
never He fell off so much
you have
from
to
regular
understand,
season to
right?
playoffs.
You have to understand though he was arguably their third best guy. I would say Danny Granger was their second best player, right, at the time.
With yeah, Paul
So
George number one,
Roy
yeah,
Hibbert, when he was good, was really good. It was enjoyable to watch.
in the regular season.
Right. So I was saying you bring Tim Duncan in. I feel like the influence Tim Duncan has on Roy Hibbert is definitely helpful. And then you have
I,
Danny Granger and Paul George also on the
I
at the
don't know if you even
front
I don't
court
know if you even
or
have
backcourt.
Roy Hibbert. I don't know if you even have Roy Hibbert either on the team or even in the rotation as much. If you have a Tim Duncan there,
Well, you
if you
have
know how
Tim
to
Duncan play power forward, and then you have Roy Hibbert play center.
I rather have Tim Duncan playing center. I don't care if Roy Hibbert's 7'2". He's 7'2" and couldn't, and clearly Bosch was still able to lock him up. So no.
You know who's the best center of all time? Andrew Bynum. Do you remember him?
I remember him. I'm sure Kim Kardashian remembers him too.
Oh
Or was
boy.
it Chloe? Which one?
I couldn't even tell you. And he was a good player. But he
Oh wait,
fell
oh
off
no,
really quickly
I'm
too.
I'm mixing him up with Lamar Odom. I think
Yeah.
of Lamar
That's
Odom.
what I was thinking. I was like,
Yeah,
Andrew Bynum was with them too. I was like, oh really? But he was good for a couple of years and then he
he
fell
was
off.
good. I mean, Skip Bayless did say he was better than Dwight Howard back then.
Also, you got Netflix, right?
Yeah.
So this is for you and everyone watching. You gotta watch the documentary that came out. It's called The Malice at the Palace. It came out, I think, this month. It is a
Hmm.
documentary on when the Pistons and Pacers faced off in Detroit, and when
Oh, that big fight.
the fight with the fans.
Yeah, yeah.
It talks about everything leading up to it and everything that happened, and all the players do interviews too. So like Ron Artest is in it, Jermaine O'Neal, Reggie Miller, even because he was sidelined with the injury. That was his retirement year. It was
The
insane.
Wallaces.
Yeah, Wallace's. I can't think of anyone else, but it's a really good documentary. It's only an hour, but you learned a lot from it, like a lot of stuff that they didn't talk about. And it really is a shame too, because at the time the coverage was, these players are a bunch of criminals, even though the fan was the one who started it and threw a bottle right across the court at somebody. But
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, it posted a bunch of ESPN clips saying, um, some of these guys are a bunch of thugs who could think they could do whatever they want and just go into the stands and beat someone up when the guy threw the bottle first directly at someone on the court, and one thing led to
That's
another.
that's how it is, when NBA is a predominantly black athlete league.
It's unfortunate, and the craziest thing is too, Ron Artest ran up to the stands, right, and he punched the wrong guy in the face.
That right there, you can call him a thug or whatever. There was something wrong with him for the longest.
Well, the thing that bothered me the most about Ron Artest, because he was always an enforcer, but I don't think basketball really needed that heavy an enforcer. Do you remember the elbow that he gave James Harden?
That's how I learned who James Harden was.
It
I
was
I was I was watching that game when it happened too. I think that was the year I had just started watching
he got like
basketball.
whiplash on that elbow. Like his
Yeah,
head was one way and his neck was the other, and I
I'm
watched. I was
pretty
like,
sure.
oh
Didn't
my
he miss like
gosh.
the whole next season?
I know he had a really bad concussion. I don't remember what
Yeah, I
transpired.
think there was some nerve damage.
But that whole story, you got to watch it. I won't try to spoil too much of it. You really start to feel bad for Jermaine O'Neal and who he was, because it had a toll on him for the rest of his life, just having to experience it. But
Mm.
and that arena ended up getting torn down too, which I didn't know. But
Good.
the guy who threw the bottle was
Hmm.
asked, because they found him, and they asked him, "Do you feel bad that someone else took a beating because you threw the bottle and he was a mistake for you?" And he goes, "Not at all." I was like, "What is wrong with you? How could you
I
not feel
hope
bad about that?"
I hope he's saying that in a sense like, no, these guys are too big, too strong.
You'll learn what happens to him, I think, in the documentary. Because I'm pretty sure he doesn't get off, free. The guy who threw the bottle. I'm pretty sure he gets charged with something. Thank God.
God.
But it's so wild because Reggie Miller said he decided that he was going to retire that year after all of that. Because that team was supposed to be one of the best teams in the league, right? You had prime Steven Jackson,
That
Ron
was before
Artest, who was
that
very
was
good.
probably before I started watching
Me too,
basketball.
me too. But
Oh,
I learned a lot about it from the game too. They were one of the tops in the league, and they were one of the expected favorites to make the finals. Because you had Reggie Miller, who was towards the end of his career but very good. You had Ron
yeah.
Artest, who was very good contributor, and so was Steven Jackson, great contributors. And then Jermaine O'Neal, who was an all-star, who was very good in his young prime, and
Hmm.
a pretty deep bench. So it was fun to learn about though, because it's all history. Basketball history is fun to learn about. Like The Last Dance, I love watching just because you not only learn about Michael Jordan's career, but you get to learn about basically everyone else that he faced and their career, like Isaiah Thomas or Magic Johnson, even the tail end of Larry Bird's career. I enjoyed, and Scottie
Speak,
Pippen.
Now speaking of that, I think I thought of the perfect topic, final topic for the show.
What?
How about last time we were on the show? I think we did our top five players at each position, like in the game, like right now.
Hmm.
Let's do our top five at each spot, of all time.
Um, we are towards the end of the hour, but if you want to give one position, then we do the rest next week. We can, unless you want
Yeah, yeah, let's do that. Where do you pick? Where do you want to start?
to. Let's. Man, I think center's the hardest, so let's do point guard.
Okay.
Um, we'll do point guard, and then we could do the other four positions next week as kind of like a teaser.
Yeah.
All right. So my best point guard in NBA history is gonna be Magic Johnson, since we kind of consider him a point guard, even though he's listed as a shooting guard. Having a six,
When was he ever listed as a shooting guard?
everything I've seen and 2K including, they list him as a shooting guard, but he's a point guard.
In the old 2Ks, I've only seen him at point guard. I never heard
Right.
of shooting guard.
He is 6'9" shooting point guard.
Yeah,
He was, I think, in my opinion, he's the best, just because he
playing.
was able to do. He's probably one of the first people who could probably play any position if he really wanted to. Um,
Yeah,
would you agree? I'm assuming you agree.
the first player who could play any
Or no,
position.
I'm saying that he's number one.
Oh, best? Yeah, by far. When it comes to point guards, the first thing that comes to mind to me is playmaking,
Yeah.
and his playmaking is still above everyone we've ever seen.
Now, for those watching, I'm probably not going to name very old players that I have never seen play before. It's not anything against them. It's just I haven't seen them as much. So the second one's where it gets hard because there's a few recent players I want to name, but there's also one older player I want to name. Um, I'm gonna go off of pure point guard ability, and this person's career being completed is why he's second. I'm gonna go with John Stockton. Um,
Hmm.
just because he's like the all-time assist leader, and he was very much a play creator, not necessarily a maker where he made his own plays, but he very much created good spacing and did a lot for Karl Malone's career too. Um,
Yeah, they made the pick and roll popular.
yeah, so he would be my second. Would you agree?
I don't have him second, but that's fair.
Who do you got second?
No, just go through your list and then I'll go.
Okay. Um, see, three is where things start to get hard. I think that this is going to be Isaiah Thomas. Um, Isaiah Thomas is really
He
good
was
too.
going to be my second.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
And I think those two are interchangeable. I think I could put Isaiah Thomas at two easily too. He's a very tough guy, that Pistons team. But
MJ himself said that much as he hates him, he's the second greatest in Magic.
yeah, he. I didn't watch him as much as the other guys, like, because I like to watch a lot of history from certain basketball players, but I haven't seen a lot from him because I didn't really like the Detroit Pistons, so I tried to avoid watching them. But he was very talented, very good passer too, and underrated scorer in my opinion. Because
Yeah, I think there was a while before like our generation, he was considered the best scoring point guard ever because he had what 25 points in the first half at some point. He
yeah,
had some record like that.
but no one ever talks about his scoring either. Like
Yeah.
as
Well, it's because of MJ.
yeah. So all right, that would be number three. Now four
Yeah.
and five is where things get interesting. You're probably not gonna like my fourth person. Actually, I don't know. I you know what? I'm not gonna put this person at four. I'll put him at five. I'm going
Okay.
to say. I'm trying to think of point guards from like the early 2000s.
Steve Nash?
No, I don't think Steve Nash top five.
I don't think so either. He's my favorite though.
I'm gonna say Chris Paul at four, and that's
Yeah.
controversial, but for
You know how
longevity and pure point guard, I think he is fits the name like the position point guard the most.
not just that. I also think all around play in both ends of the floor in
Yeah,
his prime.
so I'll say he's four. Now five, Steve Nash is in the conversation, but so is Steph Curry, and
Yeah.
I know he's still playing, but for
I
everything.
I I'd put him there.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think I would take Steph Curry just because he's
You,
changed a lot and
yeah.
his 3 point ability can make up for almost anything that he has in problems.
You know who else was actually fair to put in that conversation? Who majority of people are gonna deny. You probably aren't gonna like it. But I agree. But as I told you, I agree. Steph belongs at top five. But I really truly believe that I think it's fair to consider Russell Westbrook in those kind of conversations. Looking at him at his best, because if you just consider this, if you were to put all of those all-time great point guards like on the floor and have to go match up head to head, we're gonna start to grit our teeth saying how would, like, let's say Steve Nash head to head against Russell Westbrook. Even though many people like Steve Nash more, we're gonna buy the nails like,
Yeah.
I don't know if he can handle that.
So I think Russell Westbrook's definitely top 7 or 8. My problem is
Yeah,
efficiency, and I've always said that. But
yeah.
statistically, it's really hard to deny him any
Not
position.
not just that, also abilities. Like obviously
Right.
we know shooting is a weakness, but in his prime, he was a great free throw shooter. Like he was always in the high 80s
And
back in his prime. His mid-range shot, his driving to the basket,
I was gonna say
defense,
his
and
athleticism and power, because like he
yeah,
had he had that. I mean, as a point guard, he had that like LeBron kind of sense, but point guard version. Like he had that power to
yeah,
drive the lane all the time,
yeah.
which almost no point guard does.
And we seen that athleticism boost him on defense too. Like I don't know, you know what play I have in my mind vividly. I don't know if you remember that one play when they played against the Bucks when he met Giannis at the top with a hand on the ball, like to go down for a dunk. It still bounced on the rim and went in, but I could not believe Westbrook
Yeah.
got up and actually put a hand on that ball. Like that was incredible.
The other two people I was thinking of, I mean, I don't know. Oscar Robertson's point guard, right?
Yeah,
I mean, he's up there, and then you have like Jason Kidd, but they're both top
yeah,
10, I think, pretty clearly.
yeah.
I don't think top 5. Yeah, I'd put Steph at 5. Let's hear
All right,
yours.
I'll give you my five. Magic number one, Isaiah number two.
Okay.
Now this you're gonna actually maybe laugh at, or you're gonna be surprised. But I actually put Steph at number three.
Okay. I
Um,
don't have a problem with that.
yeah, yeah.
It's
I'm just saying you're probably gonna be surprised because you might think I'm a Steph hater or something, but I'm really not.
like I think that could be interchangeable because like Steph
Yeah,
has done a lot and in terms of 3-point shooting and plenty of other things. John
yeah,
Stockton was just more of a pure point guard, so it's tough to
yeah.
pick between one because
But
you think
but
that
the reason
Steph
why
was more gifted.
I look at it like this too because we see Steph like outside of KD, we seen Steph as the number one option for the
Right.
majority of his career. Stockton, he was always second fiddle behind
Yeah.
Malone.
No, and you're absolutely right.
Yeah. All right. So I had put Steph. Wait, no, scrap that. Actually, I'm not putting Steph at three because Chris. I was about to say I'm about to make a hypocrite of myself. Chris Paul three, Steph four.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fair.
because I've been consistent on that forever. How I feel about Chris Paul in this era of point
Oh,
guards.
I agree, and he's the most
Yeah,
underappreciated.
and it's literally in. I'm gonna say the two things that's hurts Chris Paul's legacy: injuries and Devin Booker. Now I'm gonna move on.
And I think he's got one of the best longevities out of any NBA career. Like to this
Yep.
point, he's still
Yeah.
one of the best.
Right after right after LeBron, I put him in terms of longevity
Yeah.
in this era.
All right. So number 5.
Number five. Oh crap! Who did I? All right, I had Steph at four. Number
Yeah.
five. I'm gonna say Nash.
Nash. Okay, I can
Yeah,
respect that. I think Nash is like number 6 for me, so that's reasonable.
yeah. But still, when the thing, but when I'm gonna bring up Russell Westbrook's name again, to be honest, of all of the point guards like that we've seen, I think, well, we're gonna leave Derrick Rose out of it because injuries and stuff. But who we've seen a good sample size from, I think Russell Westbrook of all of them had the most potential to be the best of all time in terms of the weapons that he has at his arsenal. Like the gift that he has is stuff that you
I
cannot teach. Like that level of athleticism can be so advantageous, but it's like he didn't always use it right.
like if you take 4, like let's say you take the 10 top 10 point guards
Yeah,
of all time, right? And you put them all on a team. All of them are in their primes, and
yeah,
you give them all the same 4 guys on their team, like same exact
yeah,
play style and performance and everything. I feel like Russell Westbrook has a chance of being the best team because just
yeah.
of his ability alone.
I will say this too. That I think one this is gonna in defense of Westbrook. I felt like he never really necessarily had the right pieces around him. Like this, they also said that in defense for Kevin Durant too, OKC did him a disservice because outside of Kevin Durant, a player like Westbrook, you need to put guys who can spot up and shoot around him.
Yeah,
Despite what people say, I actually think that Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant were a very formidable duo. I do not think it was a terrible chemistry between them because like Westbrook, when he takes off on the fast breaks, who did we see trailing behind him, ready to help him?
Yeah,
Kevin Durant was there with him, and then there was also Steven Adams with those pick and roll. But outside of those two, I feel like Westbrook never really had the players to really feed off of his play style either.
I agree. I can agree with that. I think that as weird as it's going to sound, I think that someone like LeBron, who was similar in a lot of ways, would be a perfect person to go with him, just because they're both very much drive to the rim people, and I think that you have two different threats down low to distribute to each other.
No, but that's the problem though. Like I think what Westbrook would need more is spacing. Cause think of it like this too. We get this what we got to consider like building position. It's much easier for LeBron to go in through traffic at his with both of them similar athleticism, but at 6'8" and 250 pounds of muscle, it's a lot easier to be effective down there than at a 6'3" guard.
I just think that you'd have so much more on the fast break and LeBron's distribution
Right,
with
right.
having Westbrook there, because I think Westbrook kind of lacked strong distribution versus some other point guards. And it's not that he wasn't good; he was a great distributor. But like when you compare him to Chris
Yeah, good
Paul
level
and
ceiling.
everyone else,
Yeah. No, no, no.
so
Guys like Chris Paul, Magic and stuff, they're on a different level
yeah,
of
even though
playmaking.
him and LeBron were similar in a lot of ways, I think LeBron's distribution would have definitely helped Westbrook, and hopefully we see that this year too.
But that's the thing. I don't necessarily see that true if you're looking at two ball dominant players. I think what Westbrook really needed was shooter to like help him space out the floor, cause that way he wouldn't take as many jump shots either.
You know who I would love to see him with a good shooter, but I would also love to see him with a center like Marc Gasol in his
Yeah, like I was
prime
gonna
Marc Gasol.
yeah. And but still keep the 3-point shot to
Right.
stretch the floor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to have a 3-point shot, but Marc Gasol to have distribution down low and good pick and roll.
Uh, Honestly, I think a prime Westbrook and the Bucks team like around Giannis, like not this year because I know they lost some shooters, but with let me think. Let's say they have Malcolm Brogdon playing shooting
Well,
guard,
and
and
DiVincenzo
Chris,
was a good shooter too, and he
yeah,
was hurt.
yeah, Chris Middleton, and you even have bigs that can shoot like Ilyasova and Brooke Lopez. I
Yeah.
feel like that would have been a better for Westbrook because OKC, their teams they've never been a good shooting team, and like they knew Westbrook were gonna put up the most shots, so they forced him to shoot.
What about Westbrook and Devin Booker together? I feel like they would be throwing hands by the end of the year.
That's the thing. I don't think they'd ever beef with each other, but I think both of them they get heated
I
like
don't
on the
know.
court with the other team.
Westbrook, I think Westbrook gets heated, but he plays with anger. Where I think Devin Booker is very emotional.
Yeah,
So I feel like they're different aspects. Where I feel like Westbrook would be like, "You stop being soft."
I don't know. That's the thing though. They said that Westbrook, like for many players that said it, even KD, Westbrook, when you're his teammate,
He'll do
he's like
anything for you.
he have your back no matter what.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so that's why I don't think he's gonna. I don't think he'd do that to Booker. Because I mean, look
Okay.
at what Oladipo was there. Let's be real. Oladipo was trash at OKC.
All right. Last question before we wrap this up.
Hmm.
If you could put Westbrook with one player that's currently in the NBA, both in their
Hmm.
primes, who would you take? So even if they're old or if they're young, but in their prime, who would you pair Westbrook
Yeah,
with?
I'm thinking because I'm trying to think of the levels of play and style. I'm gonna say this. All right, I'm gonna put out two names. The first one's gonna be an interesting one for you, Clay Thompson.
That'd be interesting. I don't hate that.
The driving kick, it would help him so much. But but now but now if I were to take a step above that, if you were to like really put a duo like two guys of a high level caliber, I would say Westbrook and well actually no, most of them Westbrook and Jokic. Hmm,
That would be fun. I like that.
yeah.
I think Westbrook and Jokic would be a great one. Um, I'm gonna say something controversial. Even if it's two point guards and one played shooting guard, I
Mm-hmm.
don't think that would be bad. I mean, I don't think it would be bad to see Steph with
Stephen Russell.
Steph and Russ. I mean, if they didn't hate each other, Damian Lillard and Russ would be fun too. But
First of all, you know what's funny? They even talked about that too. Damien went on the media. He said there was never any real beef between them. He said it was them competing on the court. N- Yeah, it was them on the court. He said they don't have any bad blood for each
yeah.
other at all.
What if Luca and Russ played together in their prime?
I don't think so. I don't think that worked because Luca, both of them ball dominant, and Luca, one of the criticisms that he's all gotten is that when he's off the ball, it's like he's just standing in the one
Yeah.
spot and like nonchalant.
Who do you think would be the worst combo with Russell Westbrook?
Andre Drummond.
No, you got to pick a star.
Oh,
Like for me, I think Donovan Mitchell would be the worst combo.
maybe. I think the worst combo for him would be. I think Embiid would be a bad combo for him.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, I said it last or 2 years ago. We got into an argument with someone who won't be named. Because I was told over and over again, "Oh, stop sleeping on this Rockets team with Russell Westbrook and James Harden." And I tried to reiterate. I was like, I understand that they would play together, but I don't like that combo one bit.
Y- I think I had a very similar argument with an individual too. I mean, what are the odds that it might have been the same guy we're both talking about? Don't need a Rockets don't need a big. Oh wait, they got Tyson Chandler.
I never understood that combo. I really didn't like him. I knew because, like you said, with a lot of these guys, they're both ball dominant. They both want the ball in their hands, at least at that time too. And I don't think that was ever gonna work because if
My
you,
problem was no big man. That was my biggest problem.
yeah,
No big
that
man.
was another problem too. But like even with like even if Russ doesn't need the ball, James Harden does 9 times out of 10. At least at the time, he changed when he was on the Nets, but
Hmm.
he felt like he needed to score 40 everywhere, and it was a bad combo. I think Russ could have been able to do more if they played more cohesive, but I never liked their combo.
Hmm.
Do you have anything you want to say before we wrap up?
No, that's all.
All right. Have a good rest of your week, everybody. We will be talking about all-time top fives next week, and then the week after that, we could probably do a all-time draft and build a 10 to 12 player lineup with all-time and current players, and go from there. But next week should be fun. Talk about top fives and the rest of the positions.
And we're gonna leave it to you guys to decide who would make the better GM between me and Evan. I'm very confident
Absolutely.
that I'll build a better team. But
Let's agree now that whoever has the first pick, the second person has the next two picks. Fair?
sure,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Have a good rest of your week, everybody. Enjoy some. There's no basketball going on, so preseason football is over. Enjoy baseball, I guess, for now. Play some video games. Uh, you know, have a good week. Good night, guys.